Hey guys, welcome to Priceless B Movies. I'm your host, Colin Price. And before I start this review, there's a couple things I want to say when I get out in the open there. One is that I had meant to post this review a couple of days ago, but after seeing this movie, I kind of wanted to let it sit a little bit, kind of uh, make sure that I didn't gloss over anything. Sometimes when I do these reviews, I'll watch the movie and I'll immediately review the movie. Then I'll go back and watch my reviews and be like, I didn't say this and I didn't make reference to that. Whether I had scripted that particular review or not, I can't believe I missed this or didn't point this out, yada yada. So I really just kind of wanted to give it a day or so and really think about what I wanted to say in this review. The second thing I want to point out is that, well, I really should give you guys a warning. As a horror movie critic, I know I'm expected to have certain views, even though film and film criticism is very subjective. There are some things in some movies that people are expected to say nothing but good things about. The Shining is certainly one of those. And so I just want to come out and kind of give my confession that I don't think The Shining, at least the Jack Nicholson film, I don't think that The Shining is the perfect movie that everyone makes it out to be. Now, before you all leave, I do think it's a very good movie. I think it's a decent horror film. It's a pretty decent slow burn movie, but I don't understand putting it like on a top 10 list. I don't think it's as innovative as everyone says it is. I certainly don't think it's Kubrick's best movie. And as an adaptation, well, it has a lot of problems. But that being said, I know there aren't many people that feel that way. In fact, there's really only 17 of us. We got together back in 1996, and the only thing that we had in common was that we didn't like The Shining, but we made it work. And now, all 17 of us are YouTube critics. It's true. We've formed our own group, our own phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It's called The Whining. Doctor Sleep. Doctor Sleep is directed by Mike Flanagan and stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, and Kingsley Curran. I hope I got that last name right. And it is the sequel slash kind of companion piece to The Shining. What I mean by that is it's a sequel, but it's hard to call it a direct sequel because one of the things Mike Flanagan had to do when he directed this film was he kind of had to please two groups of people. He had to please the group of people who really like The Shining, the movie, and give them like a proper cinematic sequel to that film. But at the same time, he had to please people like me and the other 16 and, give us, a book adaptation that, it's kind of like, how do you balance that? Because especially Stephen King himself did not like The Shining, the movie The Shining. He was very vocal about that. He's still very vocal about that. He did not think it adapted his work properly. He did not think that it was a good movie. So how do you please people who like The Shining and please people who think that that movie was not what it was cracked up to be? So, you can't envy the director there. Another thing I'm just going to say about Mike Flanagan, I'm not a big fan of his, in complete honesty. I didn't care for Oculus. I didn't. Hush, I thought was an incredibly overrated movie with a lot of dumb character decisions in it that was only kind of held together by a gimmick. And then I will say, though, that I did like Gerald's Game. I did really like Ouija, the sequel to Ouija that he did. So, I don't know, like, this was the first movie that Mike Flanagan did that I can safely say really impressed me. The movie stars Ewan McGregor as grown-up Dan Torrance, Danny Torrance from The Shining. He's in his mid-30s or so, and he's struggling with alcoholism, just kind of like his dad did. And he's trying to kind of suppress and learn how to deal with the memories of everything that happened in the Overlook Hotel when he was a kid, and how these ghosts, tried to continue to haunt him. And he's when we see him at the beginning of the movie, he's a very broken character. He's does a lot of questionable things. He doesn't seem to have a real path that he's going, and he's just trying to find his place in the world. At the same time, there is this group of people. It's kind of like a cult. It's almost like a Charles Manson meets Near Dark kind of thing that this group has going on. They're called the True Knot. They're led by a malevolent character named Rose the Hat, who's played very well by Rebecca Ferguson. And this cult, this group, they're kind of like vampires. They're kind of like vampires, but not really like vampires. It's interesting because, they kind of feed on people who have this ability, people who shine. And so in that sense they're vampires, but there's conversations at different points in the movie, like with these certain characters who have the shining, like do we turn them or do we feed on them? Yeah, a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the themes, what comprises this group, a lot of it is very vampiric, but I kind of hesitate to use the word vampire because it's not like they have fangs and capes and stuff. I mean, it's just kind of it's a similar concept. Pretty soon, Rose and her followers become very aware of a young girl who shines, who has this ability, but seems to have it in spades. Seems to be an extremely powerful character, even more so than Danny Torrance is in The Shining. So he ends up forming this psychic link with her and trying to protect her from this group who want to feed on her and kill her. That's the basic gist of the movie. This wasn't a film like when I saw The Shining, I didn't care for it even when I first saw it. Like I once again not going to totally trash it because I do think it's got several iconic scenes. I do appreciate kind of the legacy of that film. But I wanted to read the book, and the book, there's a lot in that book that's not only not in the movie, but there's a lot that's changed for the movie, including almost the entire third act. And it was interesting to me to see how this movie was going to reconcile that. But yeah, like a lot of people, I saw the movie The Shining, then I read the book The Shining. I'm in a similar situation here. I did not read Doctor Sleep before watching the movie. So as much as I'd like to give like a comparison and be like, as an adaptation, it's this good or it's this bad or it's whatever, I can't really do that. I have started reading the book because I like the movie enough to read the book, but I'm still kind of eager to see when I get to the end of that book what is different in the movie and what's different in the initial story, because trying to bridge those gaps and figure out, okay, well the movie ended like this, but it was kind of building off of a film that was very different. So it's just interesting. I like the way that Doctor Sleep ended as a film, but I'm eager to see if the book has the same ending. So I don't know, maybe in a couple of weeks or so I'll post on my Facebook group and give my thoughts on that. The acting in Doctor Sleep is pretty incredible. I don't think there was a real weak link. I've seen some reviews that single out Ewan McGregor, some that single out Rebecca Ferguson, saying like he is the star or she is the main reason to see it. Yeah, I don't really think there was I think everyone did their job pretty well. Um, I mean, I do think Ewan McGregor, he's one of the more versatile actors in the last 20 years or so. He's played a lot of different kinds of characters. He can play pain very well. He can play distress very well, but he can also be incredibly charming and likable. Um, Kind of on the flip side with Rebecca Ferguson's character, with Rose, she's, obviously she's the villain of the story, but she has this, how do I put it? She has almost this, I don't want to say charisma to her, because even like on paper, like if I had been shown the script for this movie and I'd seen it, she's very much a kind of like almost like a child catcher from, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, except that she's, that I don't know how to put it. I'm at a loss for words. That's kind of why I wanted to let it sit for a couple days so I could figure out how to get this out. But she definitely has this allure about her, but it's nothing like over the top. It's not like a witch and Hansel and Gretel kind of thing. She does have this quality to her where you feel like if you didn't know her, you would trust her enough to hear her out or to hang out with her for a little while. If you had no idea that she was this monster. But I think that the secret to that is Rebecca Ferguson does a great job of making the character more three-dimensional. I can easily see how someone could have written and played this character and just been some cartoonish villain. I think that the reason it works is that Ferguson works really hard to make her relatable. The way that she is with her followers, which, a lot of them were pretty good actors, but I also don't feel like they had as much to do. The focus was really on her. But the way that she is with her followers, they really do treat each other like they are a family. You do kind of side with them until about 45 minutes into the movie, where without ruining anything, they do something that completely you're not going to side with them much after that. I'll just put it that way. Speaking of which, I think everyone should know before they see this movie. This is an R-rated movie. It is a Stephen King movie. There are some very brutal scenes of violence and some very intense sequences. Um, Not going to spoil anything because not only I don't even want to be like, if you've read the book, you know, because I haven't read the book. I don't know what transferred over and what didn't. For all I know, the book is far worse than the movie because it is Stephen King. But there are some scenes in this movie, one or two in particular, that I had trouble watching in the theater. Like I thought, I was like, okay, that's almost too much. But you know, it is staged very well. It's done very well, and it's not like it's almost like the Joker that I reviewed recently. It's not a violent movie like every 5 minutes there's a murder or there's blood or there's whatever. It's just that when it is violent, it's very grisly. Mike Flanagan's direction in this, as I said before, is very good. I'm certainly going to be following him a little more closely now. Um, I did not care for the first couple of movies that he became really popular for, so it just took him a little more time to win me over, but he certainly has with this film. I'm going to go ahead and give Doctor Sleep 3.5 stars out of 4. I did see recently, too, that this movie really suffered in its opening. I really hope people will go to the theater and see this. Whether you liked the film The Shining or if you just like the books, you know, with what I do know, I think you'll go into this movie and you'll be very pleasantly surprised at how well crafted and well done the story is. Only other thing I'll say before I sign off here, and I'm really glad they did. Obviously, they do have to connect this to The Shining, and they do have to have scenes with certain characters. And I was so worried that they were going to like digitally put, you know, like Shelley Duvall's face on someone or, you know, do something like that. I do like that instead of doing that, because I think that would have been incredibly distracting. I do like that instead of that, they've just chosen actors, like other actors who can look and carry the mannerisms of these other characters. It does make it feel like a real old fashioned sequel. You know, like they don't need the CG to convince you of who these characters are. The performances just speak for themselves. That is something that I noticed in the film that I'm really glad they did. So that was my review of Doctor Sleep. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Priceless B movies.